Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library System, and we have another project at hand. And this time we're going to be using these really pretty rhombus-shaped pearl beads. I don't know if you can see that. Oops. Anyway, there we go. These are purple. I have all different colors. But I wanted to use some more shells. It's that time of year, spring, summer coming up, and it's mother of pearl time. So we're going to use these beads and make another necklace. And it takes three components. It takes beads, these beads, the rhombus shell beads, or you can use any kind of beads that you want. That's just the kind that I'm using today. And we're going to use some small silver, small round 3 to 4 millimeter beads. Again, that's your choice. And 22 gauge wire. That's it. Beads and wire will make this entire necklace. So I am really excited about it. I can't wait to see the finished product because this is, I had these purple beads and I am just loving them. I think they're beautiful. So they're really iridescent, and I think they're going to make a pretty necklace. So let's get started. You're going to need your usual suspects for tools, namely your round nose pliers, square nose pliers, and cutters. And you can use a ruler, but I would suggest that you not cut your wire into pieces, that you just use it off the spool that you have, just to give, simply because we're going to be using, where's the other thing that we need is a cylindrical item, and I'm just using a pencil if I can find it. It's here somewhere. We're going to use a cylindrical item to make these little links there. So whatever size item you use, you can use a Sharpie, you can use an ink pen, you can use a pencil like I'm using. Whatever size you decide to use will determine how much wire you need. I'm using a pencil again, and it's going to take approximately 3 inches, a little less than 3 inches, because I always end up having to cut some off to make these little links. So again, it's going to depend on what size item you use to make your links and how big you want your links to be. Keep it on the spool. Keep it on, and those of you who get kits, you're going to have long pieces of wire. Just cut it maybe into a foot or 2 feet. Just keep a long piece of wire so you don't have to cut off little pieces after you make each one of your little links. Then you don't waste so much. So anyway, let's go ahead and get down to the other camera and get started on our piece. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is make your little links. Again, here's my little rhombus beads. Aren't they pretty? So first thing I'm going to show you how to do is make these little links. Very easy. Got my pencil, got my 22 gauge wire, keeping it on the spool so that I don't have to cut it off. And all you need is 22 gauge craft wire or artistic wire for this project. Okay, so let me get a nice straight piece of wire here, straighten this out. There. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is just make a loop at the very end of my wire. So I'm going to grab the tip of my wire with my pliers. I'm sliding that wire down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers because I don't need too big a loop. It doesn't have to be very big, just enough for me to use as a link. So I'm going to clamp my wire, make sure nothing's sticking out from between the pliers. And then I'm going to rotate my pliers, open up, rotate back, clamp back down, and rotate. And I'm going to keep doing that until I have a nice closed loop. Closed. Let's see. There we go. Let's pull this out a little more, so it's easier to work with. Okay. So I've got a nice closed loop there. And I'm going to put the pliers in at the tip. And see how the loop is kind of leaning off to the side. I don't want that. I want the loop to be directly above my wire. I'm going to put the tip in. And I'm going to pull that wire back until the loop is directly over the stem of my wire. There we go. So now what I need to do is make the large loop. So I'm going to bend my wire back, my loop back just a little bit. Close that up. So I'm going to grab the face of my loop, the flat part of my loop. I'm just going to bend it back a little bit, like so. So now it looks like that. Then I'm going to grab my pencil and I'm going to put it behind my loop. So I have it bent back and I'm putting it on the side that's leaning away from the side that's leaning down. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to put it on the flat side of my loop just below where the bend in my wire is. And I'm going to wrap my wire around the pencil until the loop meets the other side of my wire, like so. Now I need to make my other loop. So what I want to do, first of all, I need to close my loop up because it's a little bit open. There we go. So now I need to make my other loop that's going to match this one. So what I'm going to do is go down. You can go down with your pliers to where there's a bend in the wire just beneath my loop. So there's my loop. And I'm going to just go in with my fingernail because I think hopefully you can see that a little bit better. I'm going to put a bend in my wire so that I can make my other loop. And now I'm going to go in to my other loop to see how far down I need to go with my pliers. If I go into my other loop, I know approximately where to put my wire to make my second loop. So there I am, about 1/3 of the way down my pliers. Clamp down on my wire and rotate until I have another loop. So there's my second loop. And now I can cut off my wire because what I want to do is wrap it around both loops. But what I'm going to do is squeeze those loops together, and you can use your pliers for this. And this is 22 gauge wire, so it's really soft and malleable. It's easy to do with your fingers. I'm going to do it with the pliers because I think you can see a little bit better if I do. So I'm going to squeeze those two loops together, and then I'm going to wrap this long tail of wire around both loops, just at the base of both of the loops. And you only need to do it 1.5 times. And I'm going to cut my wire off now. And I'm going to cut my wire right in the middle of my loop here. So here's my loop. I'm going to cut the wire right in the center of it. If I can get it. If I can get it to cooperate. There it is. Yeah. And the reason I cut it off in the center is because when I push down that little end of wire, it'll be hidden right in between the two pieces of wire here, and it won't stick up and cause any damage to your clothes or your skin or anything like that. Now, once I've done that, I can go in with my pliers and make sure my 2 rings are matching up. I can push them together. And there's my link. There it is. Easy peasy. Here's my other one. Already got one made. So now the next component that we're going to make is something to link these 2 pieces together. And that's a very easy, just a basic link. So what I'm going to do, and I'm leaving this still on my spool so I don't waste, because you need a lot of wire, so you don't want to waste it. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3 little beads on, because I'm doing this. I'm doing these 3 little beads for a link. I'm going to put my 3 beads on and just let them drop down. Now for this is a a little bit more exact. It depends on how big your beads are. If you put your beads on the wire and then give yourself approximately 1/2 inch on each side to make your loop and to wrap it, that's how much wire you need for this particular link. So I just put my beads on the wire, give myself about 1/2 inch. I'm going to go ahead and bend my wire back, grab my round nose pliers to make a loop, slide my wire down my pliers about 1/3 of the way. Again, the loop doesn't have to be that big. Bring the tail of my wire over my pliers, rotate back with my pliers, and bring the wire all the way around under my pliers until I have an open loop. I don't want to close this yet because I need to attach it to this little this loop. So I'm going to slide that loop on until it's dangling down inside my small loop. Grab my pliers again and hold on to the face of my my wire here. Wrap my wire around this, also only about 1.5 times. You don't need too long a loop wrap for this. And once I have my wrap, I can cut off that end. I'm going to turn this down so it doesn't fly across the room. See, it flew all the way over there. And then I'm going to push down that little tail with my pliers. And I'm going to slide my beads back up. And I'm going to make a loop on the other side. And I want my two loops to match up. So I'm going to bend my wire back in the direction that this loop is going. And now I'm going to cut it off because I know approximately how much I need. I need about 3/4 of an inch to make my loop and to wrap it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. Grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers like I did on the other side. Wrap that tail over the top of my pliers till I can't go any further. Then I'm going to rotate my pliers back, pull that tail over under my pliers, and I'm going to hook on the other loop that goes on the other side. And again, grab my pliers. Now I like to hold on to the face of my loop with my square pliers, because if you use like the tip of your round nose pliers, you can put a little dent in the face of your loop, and you don't want to do that. So I'm just going to hold it with the square pliers so no denting will happen. And I'm going to wrap that tail around 1.5 times, just like I did on the other side. And I'm just doing 1.5 times because that's enough to secure my wrap. But this little link is so tiny, I don't want the wraps to take over. And if I wrap it too many times, it's going to be really long. Okay, let me cut off my wire. Holding on to that little tail this time so it won't fly anywhere. And push down the end. So there's one part of my link. Now I need to add my rhombus bead. Okay. And for that, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my beads. I'm going to go ahead and put my bead, my large bead on, slide that on there. And I'm going to go down here to the end that's free, and I'm going to make my loop. Now, I know I need a good 3/4 of an inch in order to make my loop and to wrap it. Now, when I make my loop this time, because I want this to link into this little guy, and this is going this way, so this loop needs to be going the opposite way. Yeah. So what I want to do, this is the way my other loop is going to go. So this loop needs to go down. This loop is going side to side. This loop needs to go up and down so that it'll lock right in there, nice and easy. So I'm going to bend my wire back towards the face of my rhombus bead. Grab my round nose pliers, make a loop, just like we did before. Just wrap that back. And now I'm going to attach it to my large loop. Slide both of those rings on, just like we did with the other one. Slide those rings on, let it drop down into my open loop, like so. And let's close it up. One and a half times around, clip off that tail. and squeeze down that little nubby end there. I'm going to bring my bead up and prepare my wrap for the other side. Isn't that pretty? So I'm going to again bend my wire back in the direction of the face of my bead. And I'm going to make a loop. At this point, you can go ahead and cut it off because you know you need about about 3/4 of an inch for your loop and for your wrap, and you waste too much. So let's go ahead and cut that off of there. Slide my wire down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers, just like on the other side. Wrap the tail around and over the pliers. Can't go any further. Turn my pliers and then bring my wire around and under, right in between my bead and my pliers. And we're getting ready to wrap this. But before we do, we need to connect it to the rest of the necklace. Yay! And yes, of course, I've already got the rest of it made. Otherwise, we would be here all night. Okay. So now I want to slide my rings in just like I did with the other side. Slide them in there inside my nice open loop. Grab my square pliers. Now I can see that this is a little further away than I want it to be. So what I'm going to do is roll my loop down. See if I can. I'm going to take this off so you can see what I'm doing, because I want to show you if ever you have a situation where you have too much wire, more wire than you want to see, you can always change that. These rhombus beads are drilled very strangely, because you can see there's just a little hole in this part and all of this wire is showing underneath, which is fine. That's not a problem, but it's just kind of strange. Just very strange. So what I'm going to do is leave that there. You know what? This is very odd. Oh, you know why? Because there's the hole right there, and I just slid it. Ah, that's what happened. So I need to take that out of there and redo that. Not redo, but just restring. Okay, so I need to open up my loop and put that back through the drilled part. Virginia, Virginia. So let's take that back out of there. To get that straight. Out. And where's the, there it is. See how it goes through and then comes out and then goes back through. It's very strangely drilled, but there we go. That's much better. Okay, again, bending my wire back, grab my round nose pliers, make my loop. Can't go any further there. So what I need to do is bring this around and between my bead and my pliers. Do a little smaller there. There we go. And now I need to attach my other loop. Slide those two loops into the open loop Grab my square pliers and wrap it closed. Just wrap that around in between my pliers and my bead 1.5 times. And clip off the tail. Holding on. And then this little end that's sticking up there, I want to push it down so it's nice and smooth. So isn't that neat? Neat, huh? I like it. So now what we need to do is connect this somehow, some way, right? Because we're making a necklace. Yeah, have to connect it. Have to connect it somewhere. So what I thought we would do is make a self-clasp. And by self-clasp, I mean we can make a clasp that has one of the beads on it so that it looks like part of the design and it doesn't take away from the design itself. So what we're going to need is our bead, and again, another piece of 22 gauge wire. And what I need for this is to make a loop. So I'm going to make a little shepherd's hook like that. So what I need to do is decide how long I want my shepherd's hook to be. And I want the loop on it to be comparable to these little loops. That's what I want. You don't have to make it this big if you don't want to. I just thought I thought it was a pretty look in order to kind of follow the size of the loops of my links. That's what I decided to do. So I'm going to give myself about 1 inch or so, maybe 1.25 inches. And I'm going to bend my wire until I have the two pieces together. So I have this long piece that's still attached to my spool and the short piece with the tail on it. And I'm going to squeeze the ends of it together, and you can use your pliers for that, or you can use your fingers. Again, this is very soft wire, so you don't have to use any special tools to do it. But I just want to squeeze the two ends close together like that. There. And now I know for my little clasp, the one that I'm making, I need about 4 inches or so. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. Again, it's all relative. It just depends on what size bead you're using and all of that. It's kind of hard to give you specifics when it just depends on your beads. And these rhombus beads are not all the same size. So again, can't really give specific measurements. Those of you who have kits will have plenty in order to make each one of your links. So I bent my wire back so that the two ends are together, as close together as I can get them. So then I'm going to take my pliers. I'm going to go down here, give myself about a little less than, a little more than 1/4 inch. And I'm going to take this little tail and I'm going to wrap it around the long stem of wire. Just wrap it around. And it really only needs to wrap around one time. You don't have to do a lot of wrapping on this. I'm going to use my pliers because that's a very short tail. Let's wrap that around till I have a complete wrap. And then I'm going to cut off that little end there. Again, I'm turning this away from me so it doesn't fly and hit me in the face or anything like that. And then I'm going to push down this little nub. Here we go. Now I'm going to put my bead on. I'll show you what to do with this in a minute. Slide my bead on. And we're going to do just what we did with the other one. Bend the wire back, grab my round nose pliers, and make the loop. Wrap it around in between my pliers and my bead. And I'm going to stop because I need to attach it. But before I do that, I'm going to go to the other side and make my little hook. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to put it right there at the base of my wrap, right down here where the wrap is. And I'm going to wrap the wire around my pencil. Until I have a little hook. I'm going to take my pliers and bring the wire back a little bit. So that's what I have. Now I need to wrap this a little further. Oops, get up there. Here we go. And because I want it a little closer, I don't want it to be this far away from my bead. I'm going to squeeze that in until that tip is almost touching the bead, like so. Then I'm going to take my pliers at the very tip of my wire. Just grab that tip right there where it's rounded and closed. And I'm going to turn it up and give it a little ledge, like that. A little bit more. So that's what I have. I feel like the light is very bright. So there's my little hook. There it is. And now I'm going to attach my wire to the rest of my necklace. Just slide those little rings down inside the open loop, just like we did with the others. Grab my pliers, hold on to the face of the loop, and wrap it closed. There we go. Cut off that tail. See how much I had left because I was estimating. I cannot stand waste. But there you go. Cut that off. Push down that little tail of wire, the little end there. As close as I can get it to. Nice and neat and tidy. And on the other side, I'm going to grab a jump ring. Open that up. And the proper way to open a jump ring is to put one pair of pliers on one side and another pair of pliers on the other side and twist it open. Or you can put your thumb on the other side and just push it open. And I'll put on my jump ring. Close the ring back up. And here we have it. And I like this nice and close together. There we go. There's our necklace. Beads, wire, that's it. Beads and wire, whole thing. And I made this I think about 16, maybe 17 inches because I just wanted something that would fit in the collar of your shirt or just on top of your t-shirt or something like that. Not something that's hanging really long down the front of your shirt or anything like that. I just wanted something nice and delicate. Isn't that pretty? That really is pretty. Let me go ahead and put it on the display so you can see what it looks like. Hold on just a second. There it is. There is our necklace. And just to give you a better visual regarding our clasp, I put the clasp down here in the front, and you can't even tell because it looks like part of the design. It is part of the design. It continues the flow of the piece. Isn't that neat? So I wanted to show that to you. But there's your piece. It's very simple, very minimal in regard to what you need to make it. Again, I used a pencil to make my little loops. Each one of them takes about 3 inches of wire. Each of my little bead links with the small 3 millimeter to 4 millimeter, depending on what you want to put on there, beads takes about whatever the amount of space is that your beads take up, plus about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch on each side of your beads in order to make your loop and to make your wraps. And then the other link with beads on it, again, depends on the size of your beads, and you just need about 1/2 inch or so to 3/4 of an inch on each side of your bead in order to make your loop and to make your wraps. That's how you can determine how much wire you need. It's not exact because it really depends on your beads. I would suggest, especially with those of you who have kits, you'll have at least 1 or 2 pieces of wire. They're going to be long pieces of wire, at least 1 foot long in pieces in your kits. And I would just leave them that way and wrap each one with the long piece of wire and then cut it off when you get to the end. That way you don't lose as much wire. I have all these little pieces of wire that I cut off that I hate to see, but there's really nothing you can do about that if you cut your wire into little pieces. Leave it long. Save your wire. And that's it. That's our piece for today. Isn't that pretty? Nice little piece that you can wear with your t-shirt, with your button-down shirt. Just put it on the inside of your collar. And it's very lightweight, very springy looking. Depending on what kind of beads you use, you can make this with anything. You can play around with the beads that you use to put this together, and you can make this many, 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 many times and have a really, really pretty piece. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know one way or the other. As always, My email is jewelrygin20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. Send me any questions or any comments that you may have. If you make something like this, please post it on the library Facebook page because we love to see what you make. I especially love to see what you make. Post your comments there too. Let us know how you liked this, if you liked it. If you didn't like it, that's fine. We want to know because there's always room for improvement. So until next time, enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy your weekend, and see you later. Bye-bye.